What's actually going to happen to farms and rural land in 2026? Imagine you're advising a farming family, or maybe you're a student revising for your exams. And suddenly, 2026 lands like a policy earthquake. New schemes, tax changes, tenancy rules, water regulations, and everyone is asking the same questions. Are we still getting paid? Can we still pass the farm on? And can I still get rid of that terrible tenant? This video is your big picture tour of what to expect in 2026 for agriculture and rural land in England and Wales. First up, the big theme is money changes and policy splits. Agriculture is devolved, which means England and Wales are now officially going their own separate ways on farm support. You can't just assume one set of rules fits both sides of the border anymore. In both countries, the old style of support, basically a big check just for owning land, is fading out. The new message is clear. You get paid if you do things for the environment and run an efficient, diverse business. In England, the Environmental Land Management Schemes, or ELM, are the new main funding engine, especially the Sustainable Farming Incentive, known as SFI. Farmers get money for specific actions like improving soil, protecting hedgerows, or cutting pollution, rather than just for the number of hectares they own. SFI is being tweaked to be simpler and more focused, with more choice and clearer payment rates. There's also a big emphasis on not taking too much land out of food production. Alongside SFI, you still have countryside stewardship and landscape recovery, which fund more ambitious, large-scale environmental projects. The long-term plan is that most farm businesses in England will depend heavily on these schemes, plus diversification, not on old-style direct payments. Now, if you're in Wales, 2026 marks the start of the end for the Basic Payment Scheme, or BPS. A legal plan is in place to phase out BPS by 2028 by gradually reducing payments. In 2026, payments will be cut to 60%, then 40% in 2027, 20% in 2028, and then it's gone. The new kid on the block is the Sustainable Farming Scheme, or SFS. Farmers can claim either BPS or SFS in 2026, but once they move to SFS, there's no going back. The SFS is built around a set of universal actions with big climate and nature goals. For example, farmers will be expected to manage at least a fixed percentage of their land as habitat. Full guidance is still being rolled out, so 2026 is going to be a big learning year for everyone in Wales. Next, let's talk about water and pollution. The environmental screws are tightening. There is a legal target to cut agricultural pollution by 40% by 2038. That means that current rules on slurry, pesticides, and soil erosion aren't enough. So, expect more regulation and stricter enforcement. We might see more permits needed for intensive livestock units and closer control of fertilizer use. The Environment Agency is also looking at how it allocates water abstraction rights, which is basically code for sharing limited water more carefully as pressure grows. The days of farming like it's 1985 are over. It's not all about restrictions, though. On the positive side, policy is shifting towards regenerative farming and precision breeding. There is a national mission to increase agricultural output by around a third by 2050 while cutting the environmental footprint by half. This means better soil management, nature-based approaches, and new technology are being pushed to the forefront. For students and practitioners, the message is that you can no longer treat environment and production as separate things. Good rural advice in 2026 has to include regenerative methods and biodiversity as standard. It's not just the fields that are changing. The Renters' Rights Act 2025 kicks in from May 2026 and it affects farm cottages. It abolishes fixed-term tenancies and no-fault evictions, bringing in a new regime for possession and tenant rights. For farms that let cottages to workers or others, this is a big deal. There will be special grounds to get properties back for genuine agricultural workers, but the overall direction is more paperwork and less flexibility. Tax and succession planning are also facing a shake-up. From April 2026, agricultural and business property relief from inheritance tax will be capped. The days of passing on huge estates with 100% tax relief are numbered. There will be rules allowing couples to share allowances, but the clear message for rural families is, don't wait. Get good valuations and expert advice now, before the new rules bite. On the bright side, tax relief is being extended to land managed under approved environmental schemes, integrating green management with financial planning. So, if you're a student or just starting your career, why does all this matter? Because real-world problems will increasingly mix support schemes, environmental duties, tenancy law, and tax. Clients will expect you to know the difference between SFI and SFS, how the Renters' Rights Act affects their cottages, and how their environmental scheme impacts their inheritance tax. The direction of travel is clear. Less simple subsidies and more conditions. Less flexibility for landlords and more protection for tenants. More pressure to cut pollution and boost nature. To remember the big changes for 2026, think of these 3 points. Support shifts, as BPs fade and new schemes rise. Standards tighten across water, nature, and housing. And succession squeezes, with tax relief capped and planning becoming essential. The story behind all the dense legal text, and having this joined-up understanding is what will make your advice and your exam answers really stand out. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.